All right, so China's mass surveillance. I'm Jason Lee, and I'm presenting this as my project. So, introduction. I'm gonna give a brief overview. So, China's mass surveillance is one of the most advanced and widespread, and integrates AI, biometrics, and digital tracking to monitor its citizens. So, why this matters? So, it raises ethical, political, and human rights concerns, right? And examines the state-controlled privacy violations and global surveillance trends. So the timeline of China's surveillance expansion is in the 2000s, CCTVs were set up in urban areas. In the 2010s, introduction of facial recognition and AR monitoring on the cameras. 2014 was the implementation of the social credit system. 2017, Xinjiang surveillance monitoring of Uyghur Muslims. 2020s, the COVID-19 pandemic accelerated the digital tracking and surveillance in China. So China components of China's surveillance system is most notably CCTV camera networks, over 700 million cameras, facial recognition and biometrics included in the cameras. So these tracks individual in real time. As you can see in the photo on the right, it's able to differentiate a person versus like other objects. The Great Firewall, which is basically the internet censorship and monitoring. So you're not allowed to, for example, you're not allowed to badmouth government officials online. The social credit system, which is a system that scores individuals based off behavior and compliance. So if you do something good, your score goes up. You do something bad, your score goes down. Predictive policing, which is using AI to predict criminal behavior, especially on those that they deem are like high risk. High risk individuals are those who have committed criminal behavior in the past. What is the social credit system? The social credit system monitors or rewards or punishes behavior based on government defined trustworthiness. For example, you're able to gain a better score or raise your score if you're donating money or blood, you're engaging in charity work, you're praising the government online, or like you're helping the poor. Your score could go down based on many things, some of them being like cheating in online video games, spreading false rumor on the internet, and let's say missing a payment on your loan. So the impact on this is that if you have a positive score, you have better job opportunities, you have travel access, and you have better financial perks. Negative scores restrict your travel, you have job bans, and you also have financial penalties. Examples are like citizens might be banned from buying plane or train tickets due to having a low score. A case study is Xinjiang and the Uyghur civilians. So, Uyghurs Muslims are subjected to constant biometric tracking, facial scans, and predictive policing. They also have these mandatory government installed apps on their phones that track their messages. Some of them are also forced into these re-education camps, which is bad, right? And like the international responses, they're accusing China of human rights violations. So why does this matter? What's the ethical and privacy concerns? Number one, suppression of free speech. Journalists, activists, and citizens risk arrest for criticizing the government online. You're not allowed to say what you want to say. There's not really free speech. There's a lack of transparency, right? Like there's no independent body of government to prevent abuse of surveillance power. There's also privacy violations. Citizens have no control over personal data collection, and the government also have access to private messaging, to your private messages, travel history, and financial records. Global implications. China's mass surveillance model is influencing other governments. For example, in Russia, they're starting to use digital surveillance for political dissent. In the US and Europe, AI surveillance are being used for counterterrorism and law enforcement. In India, they're expanding facial recognition networks in urban areas. just like China in the early 2000s. So the arguments for this is, where do we draw the line between security and privacy, right? Like, how do we balance this? Arguments for surveillance is that it prevents crime and counterterrorism, public safety, which is true. China is a safe place. Arguments against surveillance is that there is potential for government abuse and control. You lose your freedom of speech and individual freedom as well. So in conclusion, mass surveillance is more than just a security tool. It is also a means of like social control, a way of controlling the public. China's surveillance system pushes the ethical boundaries, especially ones involving privacy. And a question to just think about is, how much privacy are we willing to sacrifice for safety? Right? There are arguments to be seen on both sides. Arguments that pushes forward mass surveillance is, oh, I don't do anything bad, so I don't really care if they track me. Right? Arguments against it is, well, that's all I have for today. Thank you.